All right, you want to lose 30 pounds in 90 days? Yeah, I bet. Who doesn't? You want to do it and you want it to be extremely easy. Of course. I can do this, I can make this happen, I can even show you, but the reality is, you know you, and I have a feeling I know you too. But anyway, welcome to Walk Talk Vent. Let's do this. Hi guys, welcome back. Today is a special treat. We're visiting a YouTuber whose channel is called A Love for Me. And she's going to be telling us about her summer without money, where she stopped spending money for 90 days, or as I like to call it, a season. And she calls this her no-buy challenge. And so I wanted to pose a question to you at home. If you're taking the 90-day walking challenge or health challenge or whatever you want to call it, the Walk Talk Vent challenge, is there a piece of you that might be interested in doing this 90-day no spending, no buying challenge to see how much you can save? I thought it sounded interesting. I'm going to pipe down and we're going to listen to see what A Love for Me has to say about this. Give me 1 second.
I've seen many of these no buy low buy videos and I never thought I'd do one, but in May I bought a capsule collection for spring and summer clothes. And then I found myself like towards the end of June saying to myself like, okay, let's buy some stuff for summer. And I thought it'd be like 1 or 2 pieces, but I had this impulse to buy like a whole summer wardrobe when I'd already like done the shopping I thought I was gonna do to the tune of like $1,000. And I was like, you know what? You may have a problem. Maybe it's time to like stop spending for a moment. And that led to me not buying anything June, July, or August in the realm of clothes, shoes, makeup, accessories, and I cut myself off of Amazon except for one thing, which we'll talk about because that was actually a mistake. My mistakes in this no buy. So going into this, I really thought, okay, this is not going to be hard. I have a lot of backup hair care, makeup products. I had just bought a clothes collection basically for spring and summer, and I just needed to wear this stuff. I didn't have any big events. I knew. If you're new here, I travel a lot for work and I attend a lot of like nighttime arts events and just events in general where I do have to have a varied wardrobe. But for the most part, I work from home, so I actually don't need a lot of stuff. And so I really was like, okay, I'm gonna take this like month. I really intended to just do a month, and I was like, but if I can do 3, I'll be happy. And after the first month, I noticed that I started to use up products and then that started to become like a little addictive. And then in the second month, I was like, I keep putting these things, like favoriting things, putting things in a cart because I'm on a low buy. But I'm noticing like how much I would have bought, how much stuff I just would have purchased because I had.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good idea. I didn't quite understand what she was getting at first. So imagine this, guys, at home. Imagine you go to Amazon, you put 2, 3, 4, 10 items in your cart that normally you would have purchased. Regular Joe Schmo items, some of them might be clothing, some of them might be special soaps, special perfumes, whatever the case might be. But by not actually spending it and not actually buying it for just 1 month in this case, right? And then she decided to convert to 3, and I'm sure she's going to tell us about that, obviously. But what's cool is that immediately shows you how much money you're saving because you didn't end up buying the stuff. What a genius idea. Tell us more.
Have in my budget miscellaneous fun spending, etc., so I could just purchase stuff, and I do. But I don't think I realized how much stuff I just throw in the cart and buy until month 2 was really rolling in because I was really like being influenced by influencers. I saved so much money, which I'm gonna tally up for you guys in the way of clothes, because I knew that I wanted to buy a few dresses for summer. That was part of my plan, like 2. But people started to show dresses and like new trends and stuff. And I realized that I really would have spent a lot more on summer clothes, probably to the tune of another $1,000. Also, I made mistakes. And this is where you guys gotta tell me, like, was this successful or not? Because I definitely, in each month, just randomly, not even randomly, I like purchased a hair product the first month, a makeup product the second month, and the third month, oh, I bought earrings. And I didn't even realize that I had broken my rules for like a week. Like the impulse was just like so great that I did it without thinking.
I'm that same way. It could be second nature, right? You're on Amazon buying this, that, and the other. Before you know it, they show you a suggestion that you might like, right, on the old homepage. And before you know it, you're throwing that in your cart too. What's interesting is she's kind of describing the two-thirds rule for us, isn't she? She fell off, but she didn't fall off too hard. A product here, a product there. It's no big deal. You just keep on moving. Let's see how she recovered from it.
And I was like, dang, I broke my own rules. I'm not starting over, mess up once, whatever. And I ended up messing up once a month. And it made me hyper aware of the fact that I really like just will randomly buy something because in my mind, I'm like, I need this. And I don't really. I have other things. I didn't need that hair product. We're going to go over what I've changed and because of what I learned. But I think I really understand now the triggers that I have, and that includes social media. I had long ago unsubscribed from a lot of email lists, but I realized over time I've resubscribed to them for discounts and things. So I've just spent time unsubscribing again because just between all of it together, I end up buying things on impulse. And I don't like that. I don't think it is unhealthy for me to buy new things here or there, to replace things, to buy something randomly. But the lack of awareness around it, the lack of intentionality around it does bother me. And so I really took away from this that I should stop and think, but also I know my triggers now. And so that led to like the changes I've made thus far.
I know you hate when I pause it when it's good, right? But I want you guys to think about something. What she's talking about is so true. We can have these little triggers, these things that we see, and before we know it, we're punching that stuff in our cart, busting out our credit card and purchasing that, right? And on Amazon, they've got your card there. You don't even need to grab it out of your purse. You just push the button. Sometimes we need to get rid of our subscriptions. Have you ever thought about maybe not having Amazon Prime, right? Have you thought about maybe checking into your various subscriptions and maybe getting away from some of them so you're not as tempted?
Very surprised how many outfits I could come out with in my closet. And also, there were several things that still have tags in there that I ended up wearing and I wouldn't have worn otherwise because in my mind, new season, let's go get some new dresses. I didn't actually need new dresses. I had plenty in there, sets. I had it in there. I didn't even wear the corset I bought for my spring capsule. I never wore it once. I'll keep it. If I don't wear it next year, I'll sell it. But like, I really like the high quality things that actually fit with my lifestyle. I'm more likely to wear.
So I want to ask you guys at home one thing. I've heard of a lot of women through the years, because keep in mind, I was married once upon a time, and I've had girlfriends and fiancés through my lifetime, believe it or not. There's nothing for you guys to spend five, six, seven, eight, $1,000 on clothing or on a night out or a shopping spree out. Guys are usually like, it's hard for a guy to spend more than $100 on himself for clothing. And I'm wondering if that's like a real big difference between the sexes. She rolls off this $1,000, to get a whole wardrobe. And I don't think too many guys think that way. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments.
For the capsule. So I think from now on, when I do a capsule wardrobe, it's only going to be from things I own. I'm not going to purchase anything unless at the end of the season, I feel like, man, I could have used that. Then I'll purchase it. But otherwise, my capsules will be built solely off of what I already own. And that leads me to like the greatest lesson I learned. And this came because, yes, like I said, the money I'm spending is set aside for spending. But I found that I was spending that money more on hanging out with my friends, on adventures. I did several things this summer outside, like in Atlanta, instead of spending it on clothes. And that really aligns with my values. I found myself spending money in a way that aligned with my values. I value community. I value time with friends and family. All of that stuff, because I'm single, makes me not feel lonely, right? And so the biggest revelation for me was, even though I have this extra money, I am better off spending it in ways that align with my values than on my appearance alone. I'm better off spending the money, making memories, and having adventures with the people around me. I want to spend that money going to the apple orchard with my nieces and nephews and taking the photos, having the photo printed and giving it to them, or being the one to sponsor the trip, right? Taking the financial burden off of my siblings and taking my nieces and nephews, and of course bringing the parents, but like being the one to sponsor that situation. That for me is more in alignment with my values than spending $1,000 on clothes. And, you know, that's not going to resonate with everybody, but it was really such a revelation for me, especially because I didn't think I had an impulse problem and I didn't think I was being overly influenced, but I was. So with all the lessons I learned, the changes I've made is, one, I have started to unfollow people on all my platforms that do the old style of influencing. I don't watch haul videos. I haven't in a while. But, you know, the vlogs where it's really just one big sales pitch, which I'm not knocking anybody, right? There are people who can watch all that and they're happy with the outcome of that. I'm finding, you know, it's not the healthiest thing for me because things I didn't think I needed, suddenly I think I need them, right? I've stopped taking as much PR because I don't want that. And then on Instagram, TikTok, I've literally started unfollowing everybody and only following people over the age of 40 because I just find the vibe around spending is a little different and it's much more let me show you life. But even then, I'm being careful because there are people who are just trying to get you to go to their like to know it page, and that's fine. It's just not what I need. And one big mistake I made in this low buy is not including books. I should have included books, guys. I was like, I don't want to include books because but I should have included books because I bought a lot of books I did not need to buy. I have like 70 unread books in there, and that's just the fiction, and I need to read those. I do not need to buy books. I read every single book I purchased,
So at least she read every single book that she purchased, which can validate the cost of a book. But here's the problem. Any book that you buy brand new is going to be $7.99 or more. If you buy an ebook, you might luck out and get one for $1 or $2, right? But they're usually not the greatest at that price. Wouldn't it be smart for somebody like her to actually go to a local used bookstore, help the mom and pop shops that need help most, buy the exact same book that you just bought for $29.95 as a hardcover and a softcover used for probably $4? So if you love reading books, which a lot of us do, check out your local used bookstore. They're the exact same books for like 1/8 of the price. It's crazy. And if you love used bookstores as much as I do, like a Bookman's or whatever, please let me know in the comments.
I'm proud of that. Instead of just throwing it on the to be read shelf, I'm proud of that. But I definitely spent a good amount of money on books. Speaking of the money I saved, so I bought about 6 to 10 books this whole 90 days. That's why I said I should have included books. And though I like what I bought and I have read most of it, I think there's one I haven't read because I need to read another book before that. But I really could have read the books on my shelf, and I'm actually now on a mission to read the books on my shelf regardless of what comes out. There is one exception that I want to put in there, but I won't because I need to read what I have, and it's just going to give me motivation to do just that. Clothing wise, it was actually kind of comical to pull tags off of clothes. I still have one dress in there I haven't worn that I will wear in the fall, and these are casual clothing, right? I save it, I have it, it's not being put on credit cards, but if I have tags on clothes, I'm spending too much, right? I'm not wearing what I purchased. So yes, I'm still going to focus on high quality clothing items moving forward, but I'm going to limit the number I purchase, and I'm going to sit on it for a bit before I purchase it. I just need to be much more intentional about my clothing purchases. So I got so much more out of this than I really thought I would. And really, like, the lies I tell myself about my spending were exposed in this, really, like telling myself, oh, I'm just replacing skincare, or, you know, this new hair care product, I need it. No, I'm just testing this out for my subscribers. The lies I tell myself, man.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. I have a feeling that about half of us watching this right now have these same problems. What I want you to do as a fun little experiment is for 1 week only, spend everything on your debit card. No cash, no credit, on your debit card that you can. If there's something you absolutely have to pay for with cash or whatever, do it, right? But what I want you to do at the end of that week is take a look at how many times you're going to fast food, and your debit card doesn't lie, right? Take a look at all the little purchases you're making on Amazon for this, that, and the other. And you're probably going through the same situation she is, where half the stuff in your closet hasn't even been worn, you know? And then what you got to do is you got to say, okay, now I have my spending audit here. Let's see if we can eliminate some of these things. And you can baby step it, guys. You don't have to eliminate everything immediately, but I think it would be a fun challenge. So if you think you're up for the 90-day no spending challenge, let me know in the comments. With that being said, go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Well, it's a good morning, Venters. Listen, I've got news for you. You're no longer a person just going for a walk. You're an official walker now. Where others may talk about walking someday, you've actually started taking the steps. And now you know, I can do this, you can do this, we can do this. Let's do this. Welcome to Walk Talk Vent. Best of mornings to you, Venters. I hope you're having a wonderful day out there. Man, today is a shocking surprise. For some reason, it feels like we went back a month because it feels honestly like it's about 5 or 10 degrees cooler with a little breeze. It's that really nice feeling that you get when you're warm and you turn on the air conditioning. That's exactly what it feels like this morning in Arizona. If you are an Arizona resident, please say hello. I would love to know that I have a fellow Arizonan walking with me. I think when you walk in Arizona, it's a really neat situation because, you know, minus a couple super duper hot days in the summer, we're able to walk all the time because even when it rains in Arizona, it's not like a real rain, you know, it's like, you know, maybe 45 minutes here, an hour and a half there. And occasionally we get a rain that's pretty consistent throughout the day, but nothing like other states where it can rain for, 8 or 9 days in a row. We don't get that out here. Sometimes I wish we did, but then when I'm in a rain type situation for a day or two, it's like, come on, let the sun come back out. Everybody likes to see the sun every now and then. I remember I used to trip out when I found out that cities like Portland, Oregon, where it rains a lot of times the people suffer from depression. So when you ask, is it really a big deal if I work out inside? It's not a big deal, but just know that there's something really beneficial about the sun when you're a human being. Walking outside, man, you just can't beat it. It's so uplifting. And like I said, I could call this segment in the morning my one eye segment because I feel like one eye is always half closed and half asleep. But again, guys, this is kind of the equivalent of my morning coffee. And although I'm naive to coffee drinker addiction, if you ever are trying to quit your coffee addiction, maybe getting out for a good walk and having a nice glass of water, maybe that'll do it for you. If you're trying to get off caffeine, just proactively know that there's going to be a day or two where maybe you're a little tired or it's hard to wake up or maybe you're a little grumpy. But if you let people know in advance, hey, if I'm grumpy today, forgive me in advance. That's what we used to say in poker when we would beat somebody with a horrible hand. Hey, I apologize in advance. Ha ha ha. Here's my 2-3. I win. Guys, here's some good news. Apparently,
Congress passed legislation to limit the amount that Big Pharma can charge on asthma inhalers to $35. I had no idea that the asthma inhalers were, I guess in danger of getting super duper expensive or were super duper expensive. But I know growing up, it seemed like every year I knew one or two kids that was using an asthma inhaler, and I'm sure you guys have seen kids using inhalers. What's interesting about inhalers, I don't know if people grow up out of asthma or what. Maybe if you suffer from asthma and use an inhaler, you can let me know the answer to this. But for every 5 or 10 kids I've seen throughout my life that use an inhaler, I don't think I've seen any adults. Do adults use inhalers still for asthma, or how does that work? And I know there's different medicines that they can give now for asthma and stuff. If you know anything about that, please let me know, because my story that I read at the Good News Network wasn't really about the individual things dealing with asthma. It was just saying that it got capped at $35. So I don't know what it used to cost, or I don't know if it was consistently going up each year. But $35, especially if an inhaler lasts you a month or so, that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Now, if the inhaler only lasts you a week, then thank God it got capped at $35. That means that you're going to have a monthly bill of about $150. But again, if any of your kids or grandkids are using inhalers, or if you are, talk about it in the comments, because I'd like to expound on this, but I'd like to expound on this with your guys' knowledge, with my team's knowledge. But anyway, isn't that great news? Whenever you can do stuff like that, and I think they did that with insulin a couple years back, right? Or we're trying to. When you have drugs that are actually needed and necessary, such as insulin, such as, asthma inhalers, those are things that people need to have on the regular. And those are drugs that we just can't really afford as people to let companies, gouge us. Because when it comes to the safety of our children, that's just not acceptable. So every now and then the politicians get something right. This might be one of them. The reason people hate when politicians get things done is because of writers and stuff. They always throw additional stuff on, We're broke. Do we really need $60 million for the JFK library in this state and the flower shops in this state? Do we really need money to go to these different, goofy things? And that's why people get disillusioned with politics, because, when you go to the grocery store and everything's expensive, it's a bummer. You go outside of the grocery store and you see the myriad of homeless people, and you look at your paycheck every week and there's all these taxes taken out, and you get your homeowners, your taxes for your owning your home, which goes to your schools, and then you find out your schools aren't necessarily performing that well. These are things that can irritate people. So when we find out occasionally that they do something good, like slow down the prices of insulin and cap the prices of asthma inhalers, I think that's winning. That's a win, guys. We'll give it to you. Give it up for the politicians. They did something right there. Another thing the politicians did right, which is a little scary, I'm sure you guys have heard about this, and if you have, please comment. Apparently they're trying to look into getting these forever chemicals out of our water. And the scary thing about this little deal, my brain's still half asleep. The scary thing about this situation is apparently there were some lobbying chemical companies and politicians that were talking on behalf of the lobbying chemical companies that were against taking these forever chemicals out of our water. God, that is crazy. Just to know that that goes back into why are politicians, of a normal income and normal status when they become politicians, and then somehow they become super rich. It's because they take money from these companies that are just hurting the people. I am not against people trying to make a profit whatsoever, but if that profit comes at the cost of endangering us and our lives and our children, that's not good.
And guys, these chemicals can have secondary effects. Imagine you and your wife having a child, and you guys, your life is fine. You don't notice any chemicals going through your body when you're drinking the water or this, that, and the other. But all of a sudden your child wakes up with 3 eyeballs, or, you know, is born with 3 eyeballs. I mean, I'm not saying it's that bad, but I think it's great that they're getting rid of those chemicals. I think the problem is the bottled water. I drink mostly bottled water, and that's probably where all the chemicals are coming from, is from the plastic bottle itself. They say you should drink out of like a metal glass or an actual glass. Stay away from these plastics and stuff. But they always change their story from year to year, so it's kind of hard to keep track. But if you know anything, again, about these forever chemicals, and you're willing to drop a line or two in the comments, let's see if we can get a conversation started. With conversations that get going, it kind of spurs the algorithm to shoot it out to more people. Maybe we can start getting a couple experts in the crowd. I go through stages where I can read a lot of books, and I'm one of these people that I can read a book and actually see it in my mind, almost like a movie. So when people annoy you and they say, you know, the book's better than the movie, you know, a lot of times it's because they have a good imagination and they can visualize things. There's very few movies that were actually better than the book, you know? So I think that's cool that apparently over the last year or so, Barnes & Noble and a bunch of independent mom and pop bookstores have been very successful. So yay, that's good news. I always think it's sad when companies close down, and I remember we used to have Walden Books and a bunch of different bookstores. And I don't know if you've ever been to a bookstore, but even if you don't like books, they've got neat stuff inside bookstores. And I told you guys how I always wanted to be in a bookstore, and you look over one of the bookshelves and you see the person of your dreams. That would be really neat, wouldn't it? You're a book lover and you fall in love with another book lover. That would be something else. But it's interesting because they say in one hand that bookstores are doing better last year, right? But then in another hand, we hear that at our schools, a lot of our kids that are in 7th and 8th grade are reading at a 3rd and 4th grade level, which doesn't really make sense because none of these kids talk on their phones. They just read stuff on their phones all day and text people. It almost makes you wonder if people just aren't trying on their tests and kind of faking like they're not intelligent anymore. I remember they used to give us tests in high school that were just survey tests. They're like, hey, there are no right and wrong answers. Take this survey test so we can get an idea of where all the kids stand. I don't remember the names of the tests or whatever, but I just remember those distinctly from high school. And I remember some kids would like not even look at the questions, just A, B, C, D, like who cares? So a lot of times whenever there's surveys, I kind of take those with a grain of salt. You can be real motivated on surveys to answer wrong because you don't care about it. And if you do care about it, you'll answer correctly, but if others don't, you know, what's it matter? So I feel like surveys can many times be completely inaccurate, but I have no way of proving it. Jetchy, what's your proof? I don't have the proof. I'm just speculating, thoughts in my mind. Because I'm a human, I have thoughts just like you. The main thing is with 6 or 7 billion people in the world, you just have to respect the fact that there's 6 or 7 billion opinions. So many of them are going to disagree from you. No big deal. No big deal. But anyway, if you're a book lover, how do you feel knowing that last year was a stellar year for not only Barnes & Noble, but also mom and pop bookshops? That's always good to hear, I figure. Whenever you go to a used bookstore, you know, the difference between a used and new book is simply the price. The used books are literally 1/3, maybe even 1/4 of the price of the new books. And unless a book is brand spanking new, it's already at the used bookstore just waiting for you to gobble it up. Why don't you go down there? You haven't gone to the used bookstore in years. Get in your car,
Go to the used bookstore. If it's close enough, take a walk there. Get yourself some good books and see if you can get away from the TV and the phone for a while and engorge your mind in some reading. Reading always makes things fun. If you like classical stuff, I like classical sci-fi, so I'm a big Jules Verne fan. If you ever read Jules Verne, you're going to be like, wow, this is a guy from the future that was set in the past, that knew how things were going to be. He was a real fan of electricity. So in a lot of his books, he describes electricity as like this magical thing. And lo and behold, here we are in this world full of electrical stuff that he envisioned more than probably 150 years ago. I think he died in like 1924 or something, or it might have been. He died a long time ago. Either way, check out Jules Verne, my favorite author of all time. He really knows how to put sentences together. There's a lot of people that reproduce Jules Verne books. I like I.O. Evans. Initial I, initial O, and then Evans. He has a couple handheld books. I love Jules Verne. And H.G. Wells, The Time Machine. Oh my God, good stuff. There's a lot of classical stuff that if you read it, it's truly better than the stuff we write today. The stuff we write today, in order for it to be successful, it's gotta be teeny. And what I mean by teeny is it's gotta fit the world of the teenagers now. And let's be honest, our teenagers now are a little weird. The classical stuff, there's a reason it's classical. It stands the test of time. If any of you guys go get the anthology or, the omnibus of Jules Verne, you will absolutely love that stuff. I consider myself a Vernian. I love Jules Verne so much. So that's kind of cool news. Speaking of cool news, the Mexican wolf, its numbers have been increasing around the Arizona, Mexican, and Texas borders for 8 consecutive years. That means that each and every day there's some Mexican wolf puppies being born and stuff. That's awesome. Very awesome. It's kind of sad when animals get on the endangered species list, but it's really uplifting when their numbers start growing. It shows that, hey, we're doing something right by them. See, you can eat meat and still absolutely adore and love animals. You got to remember that as Americans, we eat meat, but there's certain animals that we never eat, right? We don't eat dog, to my knowledge. We don't eat horses. And there's a lot of animals that we don't eat. We don't eat cats or kittens, So I know that with our vegetarian and vegan friends, it's kind of painful to know that animals have to lose their life to feed us, but, it's just kind of a tough deal. We all have to eat. But the thing is I think you can rest assured that 99% of your friends that eat meat actually do love animals and care about them. But if you gotta eat, you gotta eat, I used to watch Survivor, and every now and then they would have a vegetarian on the show. And guess what? That vegetarian, before you know it, would be eating fish or crab or something, right? I even saw one Survivor. Did you see the Survivor where the girl ate like a dead, it was like a dead bird head or something? I was like, ooh, how disgusting is that? Some of those shows would really come right up to the line of what's okay. There was a show that Joe Rogan used to host called Fear Factor. And I remember for the first season or two, I really liked it because they had some really good things. But I think by season 2 or 3, everything involved eating a deer testicle, or a bull penis. And it was just like, this show isn't about fear. This show is about grossing people out. And they would show this giant deer testicle with all these veins in it, and it's like, God. And then they'd show like a pretty young girl bite into it and all the juices pop out, and it's just like, this is disgusting. I'm trying to eat. Let's watch something else. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you guys remember Fear Factor, and do you agree that that show could have been actually about fears And it was in some degrees, right? They would put people in a coffin-like box and throw snakes on them and stuff. That's legitimate fear. But you can't do that every week. So what they did is they started eating gross body parts of animals. They had those specialty eggs where you have like a half-developed little chicken, right? And they would eat that, or a half-developed bird. And it's like, God, I don't want to hear the crunching of a little bird body in their mouth, you know? And then sometimes they'd be like, this tastes good. Oh my God, that show was so gross. Some shows just are designed to stop. That was one of those where everyone eventually said, stop, enough. Go to the MMA scene, Joe Rogan. We don't want to see any more gross stuff, you know? You know, this reminds me of my very first video I made. You write down a handful of topics on a 3x5 card, and you kind of think, I can talk about that for half an hour, and then 10 minutes later, you've ran through all your 3x5 cards, and here we are. Well, the good news is many times I don't even have a 3x5 card with me, so I think we'll be fine. If today is a beautiful day where you live, tell us in the comments, because it always amazes me how one day can be 10 degrees hotter than another. And somehow the scientists and the weathermen, how do they know that? You know, when I was growing up, there was a saying that nobody could predict the weather. Do you guys remember that? But my whole life, the news has been predicting the weather, and they're almost spot on all the time. Don't get me wrong, they're wrong occasionally, but they definitely are able to predict the weather, if you ask me. Do you guys remember that saying? It's as unpredictable as the weather. I know that there's certain people that live in Florida. So check this out. I used to sell DirecTV with the dish to people. And you'd call somebody in Florida, and they would be complaining that, you know, hey, it rains every day in Florida. There's rain for an hour or two, then there's sunshine for 3 or 4 hours, and then the process was repeated the next day, you know? And every time the dang clouds come out, I can't watch my dish. I can't watch my DirecTV, you know? What's going on with this? I want to go back to cable, right? And we would tell them, well, check this out. We got a new dish. It's a ceramic dish, like it mattered. Sometimes I would tell them goofy stuff too, like, you know, your old dish needs to come down and we need to put this new ceramic one. It can see through the clouds. God, some of the things we say on the phone to people, just ridiculous. And I would every now and then joke and be like, you know, Edith, your dish has too much bird poo-poo on it. We need to come take out that dish and put a new ceramic one. Really, Jesse? You think that'll help? It will. And I'll hook you up with NFL Sunday Ticket, you know? Well, if I can watch my Tampa Bay Buccaneers play every game, let's do it, you know? Oh my God, I can't, you know, I gotta tell you guys a funny story. When I worked at DirecTV selling the dish, right? And it was for a third company. So I didn't work directly for them, but we sold DirecTV, and it was in the retention department. So we already had a person that had the dish on their roof, and we had to keep them. And it was so funny because people would complain about, you know, again, every time it rains, I can't watch my dang TV. And we had a list of responses we were supposed to give them, and the response was always lame, like, well, let's have one of our techs come out and see if we can aim your dish in a different location in the sky, right? Like that was gonna help anything. And it's funny because instead of using that rebuttal, because you got to make commission, you got to try to make some sales and some bonuses, right? I would say, Edith, this sounds like a money problem to me. And I would give them a 40% discount on their services and just give them another year of NFL Sunday Ticket. And I'm telling you, 99% of them said, I think you're right. Picture how funny that is, guys. You call up ready to disconnect your service because of the clouds in the sky, and you can't even watch your TV for 3 hours every day. And we could get you to change your mind just by giving you 40% off for the year and another season of NFL Sunday Ticket. It was comical. Because from that point on, that was the rebuttal I used. And every now and then, our supervisors would come over with our QA scores. They'd be like, I don't know how you retain so many people. Your QA scores are awful. QA is where they review your call, right? And they give you the idea of what rebuttal you should have used. You know, next time somebody tells you they have trouble with the clouds and their connection from their dish to the signal, don't tell them that they have a financial problem. Oh my God, it was so funny. I used to laugh at that job so much. Oh my God, those were good times. The problem with Dish is they got purchased by AT&T. And AT&T is a two-way sword because many of us have AT&T in our portfolios for our retirement. So even though you might be pissed that your DirecTV bill is sky high because they're owned by AT&T, or they were, I don't know if they still are, AT&T's goal was to get profit each and every year for their shareholders. So again, you might be pissed and upset with AT&T because of your DirecTV, but I used to tell people there's a good chance that AT&T is part of your 401k plan. So, you know, you want them to be successful. Heck, you want them to be very successful, right? But at the same time, it's annoying when they jack up your prices 10 or 15 bucks every year, you know, per month, like it's no big deal. I don't think companies realize when they go for their annual 3 to 5%, you know, goals to raise profits. Man, those things become taxing on everybody because every company's doing it, you know? So you think to yourself, hey, I'm selling a product here for 30 bucks. Now it's $32.95. I don't think the consumer's going to stop buying it. I think they'll be able to still maintain it, and we'll be able to get those extra funds so we can grow our company, satisfy the stakeholders, yada, yada. But again, what they don't realize is that every single company is shooting for that 3 to 10% window of increasing their profits. And it's just a tough deal. The American consumer is the one that ends up getting beaten up the whole way, you know? If you're a business owner and you know a little bit about how this stuff works and you agree with me, let me know. If you know a little bit about how this stuff works and you totally disagree with me, let me know. I am a little naive on it. I'm looking at it just from an individual viewpoint. But I know that there's not one product today that was the same price that it was just 5 or 6 years ago. Everything's gone up. Every single thing's gone up. And every time things go up, that means the wholesale price of things go up too. So in some cases, some of these companies are forced to increase their prices. But to what end? Apparently there is no end. So that's probably the one problem with capitalism, right? Is that it's designed naturally just to keep going up, up, and up. And if inflation stays at 2% every year, that's great. But somewhere in the last couple of years, it jumped up like 8, 9, 10%, maybe even more. And even when politicians tell you, hey, inflation is back down to 1 or 0%, which it's not, but when they say that, it doesn't mean that it makes up for the 10% jump it had the previous year, right? So if something was 15 bucks and now it's 20, and the following year it's $20.25, that's not a win. You know? Yeah, it only went up 25 more cents, no big deal, right? But before that, it was only 15 bucks. So it went up $5 and never went back down. That's why I'm not a big fan of taxes. Because whenever you vote on a tax and increase taxes, that's more money that's needed to make sure that those taxes, you know, go towards something. And half the times with our government, they're just horrible at spending money improperly. And then, like I said, you know, you need new this, that, and the other for your city or your county or your state. And then before you know it, your money's going to some weird library in some weird part of the country. And it's like, that's why people get so angry. They get so angry. All right, so now both eyes are open. Now I'm a little bit awake. And just like that, the walk's about over. I hope you guys have a very productive day. This is Thursday for me, which means you'll be seeing it on the funnest day of the work week, Friday. Yay! I love Fridays, don't you? If every work day was a Friday, oh my God. I don't know if we would be super productive because we're all happy, or if we would be unproductive because the last half of the day on Fridays, a lot of times people coast and get a little lazy. Speaking of lazy, get your shoes on and start walking if you're not already. The key to walking is not thinking about it. It's okay to take a mental walk with Jesse if it's midnight and you don't want to walk outside, but if it's sunny and you can, get to walking. As much as I love when you guys take mental walks with me, it's really important that you take physical walks too. And remember, if you're walking once or twice a week, that's okay to get yourself introduced to walking, but you really need to try to up that to at least 5 or 6 days a week. And you know me, my thinking is all 7 days, every single day. Remember, it's not a job, it's entertaining. We love walking, right? I'm addicted to walking, it's part of my life. It should be a part of yours. And if it is, then you want to walk every single day. And if you love walking, you don't mind doing extra credit. It's not even extra credit to you anymore, it's just a part of your life. And just know that it's something that even if you get away from, you can always turn back on, but you have to do it sooner rather than later. You don't want to turn it on after you've had a heart attack or stroke. You want to ideally catch yourself before you get to those levels, right? So anyway, have a beautiful day. I'll catch you later.